Please be seated.
Hello, Your Honor.
Hello.
This is a case of Harrison, McMahon, Wilridge versus Rogers.
Thank you, Jerome. Good day, everyone.
Good day.
Ms. Harrison, you and your sisters have been haunted by rumors of family secrets for more than 30 years. You say the defendant claims your father had an affair with her mother and therefore is your biological sister.
Yes, Your Honor, that's correct.
Now, you've requested results of a siblingship DNA test to prove she's lying.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Rogers, you argue that you do not doubt for a single moment that Ms. Harrison's father is, in fact, your dad.
Yes, Your Honor.
Today, you contend you'll prove to Ms. Harrison that you are sisters beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Ms. Harrison, why are you convinced Ms. Rogers is not your sister?
Well, over the years, her mother has denied the rumors. Her mother denied even having an affair with our father. And her mother and my mother were best friends. And when I was 16 years old, my father died. And her mother was confronted by my mother's sisters. And even then, she denied even having a relationship with our father. And I just don't believe that she is my sibling.
They are in denial, Your Honor.
Your mom was always in denial of what whether she did it or not, we don't know.
That's a lie.
What's a lie?
What's a lie is my mother, yes, she denied the fact that to you guys, but she did that because she did not want to hurt y'all.
Okay, but guess what? I'm not worried about being hurt or whatever.
She hurted me.
We're okay, but you're taking your hurt, the hurt that your mother caused you, out on us.
How is I'm taking it out on you?
I mean, because you're saying all of this stuff, you know, and like I said, over the years.
How am I taking the hurt out
Your
on
Honor,
you?
we were raised
when all I want to do is
this is what I want to understand. You all obviously have a long history.
We have a long history.
And so you grew up together.
We grew up together.
We grew up as cousins.
As far as I can remember, we were always in one another's lives. We grew up as cousins, even though we were not blood relatives.
But since your mothers were best friends, we were all close.
We spent holidays together. We, did different things together. And because my mom and her mom were best friends, I guess my mom just couldn't believe that her best friend would do something like that to her.
But she did,
well, it says a lot about your mom. Well, it says a lot about your mom because if your mom is making allegations that she's my mom's best friend, like a sister to her, why would she do that?
But you know what? I can't
Evidently,
speak for my mom because my mother is not here.
But you are now because you're saying,
I'm speaking
and
for
you're trying to
all right,
say
ladies,
because you're saying these were rumors.
I'm here for myself.
Ladies, I want to understand your story, but I have to be able to hear them. And if you're talking at the same time, I cannot understand.
Okay.
I understand.
So, Ms. Rogers, what makes you believe that her father is your father? Because you seem very confident.
Because he told me so.
He told you?
He told me so.
Okay, that's just another rumor. Did you see anything on a birth certificate?
No,
he
he was on my birth certificate.
Okay,
he told
that says
me
it all right.
What did he tell you?
He told me that I was his child. He called me, he said daddy to me when I was 8 years old when I broke my arm. And then when I had my surgery, he also brought me a pink hippopotamus to the hospital for me to get everybody to sign. And he also stated at that time
he always did a lot of nice things for you guys because he tried to play the father figure because there was none in your life.
In my
you had
life,
no father figure. None of you guys had a father figure in your life. He was just trying to be nice. That doesn't make him your father.
He told me at the age of 14, he picked me up from school just before he died and took me to Watts Cafeteria in our hometown. And I remember what I ate. I remember what he ate. And he told me that I was going to have to help my mother.
First of all, you weren't 14 when he died because I just turned 16 and you hadn't even had a birthday yet.
And then he had turned around and told me, no matter what my mother or anybody says, that he is my father.
So now
That's what he told me. So if I'm lying behind a dead man.
Okay.
He told me he is my father, and I will face
the only thing that's what we're here to prove. I mean,
wait, Ms. Rogers, what I'm trying to understand is if this man told you, I'm your father, and he
Yes,
referred to himself as daddy
Yes,
to
ma'am.
you. What did you call this man when you were around Miss Harrison and her family?
Uncle
Because
Fess.
so you
What
called
I
him your
was told
uncle.
to call him. When my deceased sister, Yvette, was still living.
Yvette is not your sister. Let's get
Yes,
that straight.
she is.
She is
and
not
I
your
have
sister.
proof right here.
She is not your
I
sister.
have proof right here, Your Honor, how me and her look so much alike.
Looks can
not
be-
just
you don't even look like
Let
her.
me see this
You
evidence.
don't
Not
even look
just
like her.
looks.
Looks can be deceiving.
So, ladies, I'd like to understand what this piece of evidence represents. Who is this a picture of?
That's
This is a
of
picture
our
of-
sister. Our
of
sister.
Yvette,
She's deceased. She was
and
right
that's
up
a
under. She's 4
picture of
years
me.
younger than I was.
And your
Because
evidence,
she accepted me before she died.
No,
and she
she did.
accepted
Yes,
you
she
before she
did.
died.
undecided.
Yes,
She
she
was on-
did.
she was-
She accepted
Your
me
Honor,
before
may
she
I?
died.
And so
We
ultimately,
took a
this
DNA
evidence.
test, and she kept it private.
If you want more episodes of Paternity Court, make sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell. Why would you get the DNA test with just the one sister?
It was not my idea.
It wasn't your idea.
No, it was Yvette's idea
And so, what were the results?
that we were siblings.
That you were siblings.
Yes.
Did you ever receive any paperwork that you were
No,
able to
ma'am,
bring to
she
court?
got the paperwork
Both parties
sent to
receive
her.
the paperwork.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anytime there's a DNA test ran, both parties get paperwork.
Your Honor, I had just lost my leg and I didn't have a permanent place to stay. So she had it delivered to her house and she contacted me.
So, Ms. Harrison, did you ever hear any of this?
This
that
is the
this was
first
happening?
time about
No.
hearing about this test. And like I said, Yvette and I, all of us, we were real close.
real
And
close.
if she would have done something like that, she would have let us know. She would have.
All right. So you said you believe your father was just trying to be nice to her.
Yes, Your
And
Honor.
because she didn't have a father figure or father in the home, you think maybe his way of just trying to be there for her was to say, don't worry about anything, I'm your daddy.
He is her godfather, and maybe she took
That's
that
the
as being
reason
a
they
father.
were my godfather and godmother. It's because they was hiding the secret.
Well, my mom, she
my
was your
mom
godmother.
could
She
not
had
agree to be your godmother to hide a secret
on-
because she had no idea.
She had no idea.
So how
What
was
you
she
mean
lying?
she had no idea?
She didn't.
She didn't have no idea.
It was unbelievable to her that her best friend and her husband
Yes, she
would
even
go
told me
behind her
herself
back
that-
and do something like that.
Yeah, she didn't believe.
She
My
did
mama
not believe
helped
it.
out. My
How your
mom
mama
used to
helped us?
give
Y'all
him
were- y'all
money.
were in a worse
My
position
mom
than
used
what
to
we
give
were in.
him money.
Okay,
to help out and
ladies,
everything.
I trust me, I know how important this is to
And
all
it
of you.
hurts me because I had to live with this secret and live with it and not be able to
But why
talk
wait
to
this
them.
long?
Yeah,
Not
why wait
to
this
be
long?
treated ugly by her.
When have I ever treated you ugly?
You did
Never.
when I stayed on Elder
Tammy,
Street. We lived by
Miss
each
Rogers,
other.
I've never treated you
When
ugly.
we lived by
because-
each
And you
other
say,
on
Miss
Elder
Rogers,
Street.
this secret was a lot for you to bear as a
Yes,
young girl.
I bared
As a young
it
girl,
a
but
lot.
you're an
I had
adult.
to
You
bear
was an
it.
adult.
now.
You know, why did
And
you
why
have to
at 8
hold
years
a
old
secret?
somebody would trust an 8-year-old child with that kind of secret?
For a grown man to say, I'm going to give an 8-year-old this type of information, and I'm going to trust that she not say anything at all, that is hard to believe.
When he was at our house, I was daddy's girl.
Now that's not true.
When
I
he
am
was
my
at their
daddy's
house,
baby.
Michelle was the baby.
I am the baby, and I was the baby. As far as I remember, we were around each other. We done things, but it wasn't like he was always
Ma'am,
up.
please stand up and
I'm Gloria Wilridge,
please step to the podium.
I am Ellis James Wilridge, youngest daughter.
Okay.
And I can also remember when I was younger, my dad took me to the store and they had some bubble gum in a tube, and I asked him for it and he said yes, and he was like, get 2 more tubes for your sisters. Well, I'm thinking we're gonna go home and he's gonna give it to my sisters, but instead we went to Tammy's house and her siblings and he gave it to her. So like I said, we were young, we were kids, so we didn't put 2 and 2 together until we was adults, and it started becoming questionable and things.
So, Ms. Rogers, let me ask you, have you ever, or did you ever, just ask your mother, is that my father?
Yes.
And what did she say?
She told me no, and she got very upset with me at the age of 36. Me and my mother had a long talk, the last long talk we had. And she still denied it, but the way she acted, you know, the crying in her emotions, when I told her what he told me, that made it even more believable inside of me that he was telling the truth.
So she basically took this denial, this answer of no,
She
he's
was
not your father,
ashamed.
to her grave.
She was ashamed. You know, who wouldn't be?
But she couldn't
as
be too
good as
ashamed
her
because
mother was to
over
us.
the years she still hung
You know,
out at
as
our house
good
with
as
our
her
mother,
mother
pretending
was
to be,
to us.
yeah,
As if nothing
You know
was
what
pretending to
I'm
be her
saying?
friend. She
Her
wasn't
mother
too
was-
ashamed. She
They
wasn't too
didn't
ashamed.
talk to each
All
other
right,
anymore.
so I'd like to hear from the next witness, from Ms. Harrison. Please stand, ma'am.
Yes.
And state your name.
Danette McMahon.
You are Ms. Harrison and Ms. Wildred's sister.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
please step over to the podium with them. So did you grow up knowing Ms. Rogers to be your cousin as well?
Yes.
But did
and-
you also hear the rumors?
Yes, I've heard the rumors. Yes, Your Honor.
So, Ms. Rogers, you have to understand that it's very hard for them to have to think about or even process the fact that their father may have had an affair, much less had one with their mother's best friend, which they
And it's-
considered to be
Well,
their aunt.
We seen them through the peephole in our bedroom.
Who did?
But that,
I mean, we
but that
don't
still
talk
doesn't make
about
him.
you know,
That still
they
doesn't
was
make
in
him
the
your
bed
father.
together.
Hold on. I need to hear this story. Ms. Rogers, who's we and
me
who did you
my
see
little
through a
sister,
peephole?
Me and my sister, Glenda,
Okay, that.
Saw.
my mom, and at the time that's what we called them Uncle Fats, in the bed together.
Okay. And
Not
I don't
one
deny
time,
We don't
but
deny
several
that.
times,
We
'cause he used
know.
to
We
spend
knew.
But
nights
that, guess
with
what?
us.
That
We
doesn't
know
make
stepping
him
out.
her father just
Stepping
because
out,
they
but-
were sleeping together.
Well,
Oh, so
what
you
makes
all
him
don't-
my father?
Yes.
What makes him
Yes.
my
I
father
think-
is because he said he was my father.
But he just said it. There's no solid proof. But yeah, he didn't have
But wait a minute, when she said her
No,
story
he
and
didn't
she
have to be.
said,
He
wait a
was
minute,
the
Miss Rogers,
father.
when you said, we saw your father and my mother through the peephole in the bed together, all three of you reacted like, yeah, okay.
Because we're saying,
You know,
But what I'm saying,
as we got older,
Yeah.
we started saying, yeah, it's a
Find out.
possibility. Because anytime
right, so
a
if
man
there's
and
a
woman is spending that
possibility
much
that
time
it's
together,
true
that it's
they
true.
were in the bed together, isn't it also true that there's a possibility that he's her
But
father?
them in the bed
It's a
together
possibility.
doesn't necessarily make him the father.
Yes,
and
no,
what
no,
we're
my
saying
father
is,
It is
we
not.
don't know.
It's
You
gonna prove
know,
it
because
today.
she's telling us what he said.
All right, so as you stand before me, all four of you believe Mr. Wilridge is your biological father.
Yes.
Yes.
We know for
We
sure.
know for sure.
We know
We
for
know
sure
for sure
that he's
our
our
dad.
Yeah.
We know for sure.
What
No,
she's
there's no
saying is
question.
hearsay.
We know
It's
our
so
dad and our
say.
mom
So
is.
I look just like
all
my
four
father.
of you.
Laugh after the DNA is read.
That's what
Your
I'm
Honor,
waiting on.
Your Honor,
he
I
is
look
my
just
father.
like my father.
Why would he lie
Out of
to
all
me?
four girls, I look just like my father.
Yes, you do.
And if you were a sibling, you would look like me, but you don't. I mean, I know
don't have
genes.
to
I know
look
genes
like
can go
you.
either way, but I feel like you can
don't
tell we're
have to look
sisters, but we
like
have.
you.
Okay,
our-
ladies, I think it's time for the results.
I'm
Let's
ready.
get them.
I'm ready.
Let's get the truth. These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics, and they read as follows. To be clear, because we're trying to determine whether or not Mr. Wilridge was all of your father, the test that we administered is for half siblingship. You understand?
Yes.
So, if it is determined he is your father, that would make you half sisters. Do you want to watch Paternity Court on TV? Go to paternitycourt.tv to find your local listings. In the case of Harrison, McMahon, Wilridge versus Rogers, pertaining to whether Ms. Rogers is the biological half-sister of Ms. Harrison, Ms. Mcmahon, and Ms. Wilridge. It has been determined that you are indeed half-sisters.
I mean, I just wanted to know.
We just wanted to know the truth.
That's fine.
That's fine with us. We just wanted the rumors to stop.
I mean, that's fine. I just wanted to know the answers. You know, that's all I wanted. Now I know, and there's no more doubts in my mind. You know, and I don't feel hurt or pain. The only person I feel hurt and pain for is my mom. The only person I was
concerned for was our
about
mom.
was my mom.
No woman deserves that. And I know you hurt for your mother. No woman wants to be cheated on, especially by her husband and her best friend. And yet, put yourself in the shoes of this innocent young woman.
We were innocent too.
And yes, you were. However, you grew up with your mother and your father. So all I'm saying is love and compassion.
We want that.
Yes, love and compassion is the answer here. Good luck to you all. Court is adjourned.
After getting the results, I am very relieved because then no one can judge me anymore.
Because we have always been raised together as cousins, as kin, and we had that relationship, I'm fine with it.